The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People. Hey, you guys are old high school pals, now successful professionals in the energy industry together. That's a special thing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Go back pretty far.
When did you guys meet? You guys like middle school together?
Yeah, eighth grade.
School, 8th grade, yeah.
Yeah,
Fast friends.
Yeah.
we were like immediately best friends in 8th grade,
Yeah.
and then he moved away during some pretty critical years. What year was it? Sophomore year you moved?
It was freshman year.
Freshman
I went
year.
to Massachusetts for 3 years. And then
Yeah.
I came back for
Just your family
second
moved?
year. Yeah. Yeah, my dad moved us all out there. Yeah.
Was your dad in the military?
He was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did active duty for 3 years and then the reserves for another 20.
Okay.
So, yeah. But he was also a teacher. So he was a religious teacher. So he moved out to Massachusetts for that reason. And then stayed in the military during that time as well. And
That's two different ends of the spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Like a seminary teacher and a military man.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. So talked about how you got brought into the industry for those that don't know. So market leader out in high desert franchise. And now we are 2 for 2 on U.S. bobsledders being franchise reps.
True.
So
Right. Yeah, Chris Avery too.
3 for 3, Eric. Oh,
Yeah, Eric.
Eric,
as well.
oh,
Yeah.
we got 3.
We're
And
trying
by
to
the
get
way,
more bobsledders.
in honor of
100% of the bobsledders that we've recruited have been
have
highly
franchise.
successful.
Yeah, I think this is a new strategy actually that we need to really tap into.
Oh, we're going.
But we
campaign.
last night with my kids, they wanted to watch a movie, and they actually picked it, but they picked Cool Runnings, and so I've got bobsled on the brain right now.
Yeah.
You know,
It's fresh,
it's fresh on the brain.
and that's very inaccurate, by the way. Cool.
Of course.
I didn't know that until I did bobsled, and then
Yeah.
once I did bobsled, I was like, "This is not."
You need
Yeah.
one of those. You need one of those YouTube clips that talks about like a real bobsledder analyzes cool. Like they have real surfers
yeah.
look at like Point Break, or they'll have football players look at like.
That would actually
football
probably
movies.
go viral.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We should spend most of our time talking about that. Actually.
yeah, for sure. Well, the most accurate thing about that movie is that the Jamaican team does still crash a lot. That's about it.
That's kind of a cool culture though. If that's going to be their thing, it's like, yeah, we're the ones that
We go-
crash out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We go hard and crash out.
Yeah, for sure.
They so I used to do fight training with one of our former market leaders, but at the time he wasn't a market leader. For like 3 to 4 years, he would like train me one-on-one. And whenever we trained with this other guy, there was this other specific kid. And before he would do like striking with you, you'd like put your hands up and he would take your hand and like punch it into his face a bunch of times to just be like, all right, now like I'm ready to go. So maybe with like bobsledding, you just get your crashes out of the way and then you're fearless, you know?
Yeah.
Or like in door knocking, I would always say like, I got to go get some nose on me. Like I would feel like when you know, like in elementary school, when your shoes are too white and you're like, look crazy. Like they're way too white. It's like being knocking doors without any nose on you. And then once you get like your nose on you, then you can get going.
Yeah, you have to fail a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
same
just
thing-
like feel the thing that you're scared of to realize it's not that bad. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's true. Because when you enter bobsled, it's like everyone always talks about crashing. It's like the worst thing ever. And then I remember my first crash. I was like, you know what? This isn't that bad. I had that thought while I was upside down, going 80 miles an hour with my head on.
fine. This is
Like
fine.
this isn't too bad. I'm like, you know.
Well, I noticed that in the movie, like that was one of the things they portrayed really well was like they have the shot, if you remember, when they crash and they have their heads pushed up against the ice, and it's not a fake shot. Like it's not, there wasn't CGI back in the early 90s. And so their heads are like grinding against that, against the ice. And I'm like, man, that must be an extremely intense experience. And you're saying you were going through it feeling like,
Yeah.
that was my biggest fear, and hey, it's actually not that bad.
Right. There's all this buildup of how bad it was and how injured you could get, and it really wasn't that bad.
Don't you break necks? Like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that the main fear?
That's why I was kind of scared.
Yeah. Because how heavy is a bobsled? 800 or 900 pounds or something?
Yeah, almost 1,000 pounds.
And then when you flip, your little head's poking out. And so it could just.
Yep. Yeah, and it happens. It still does happen. It's pretty rare now because of all the safety equipment, but you can still hurt your neck, and people get concussions all the time. So, yeah.
Can you control it though? Like what position were you?
I did all the different positions, second, third, and brakeman.
So is one person more responsible for a crash than another?
No, you just kind of want to manage where weight is going. So that's actually real in the movie where, they're sitting in the bathtub and they're trying to, anticipate the turns because you can't see anything. Your head's between your legs during that time. And so you just want to like anticipate the turn, use your abs and just prevent from running into the side of the bobsled.
So you do kind of have to move as one.
Can you hear each other? Like, do you make calls and stuff during it, or
No, it's completely silent. It's actually pretty loud in the bobsled as you're going down.
I would imagine.
Yeah. So
What an intense experience. They had the one in Salt Lake that you could go do. I never did it, but a lot of people did.
yeah.
But it sounds like just like a sprint and then a hold, and hopefully you make it. And if you're on your head, then that's what happened.
Yeah, it's true. Adler, we were just talking about going up there and doing a couple bobsled trips.
Oh, is it still there?
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah. They have a summer trip, and then you can go in the winter and go down as well as like a passenger ride. So
Is a summer trip like on wheels?
yeah, it's not that fun.
No.
The winter one's way more fun because
Do
it's
they
fast.
do they limit your speed on it, or is it
They
like,
do. They start from a lower start, so you don't go as fast.
Okay.
I think you only go maybe 50, 60.
still pretty fast?
Yeah,
though.
it's still pretty fast.
Listen, we when we did Paul Dixon's interview, I think that was 2018, I think. And in there we were talking about racing the Baja 500, and we committed to each other that in 5 years we would race the Baja 500.
You guys did
It's
it.
been 7. We just did it last weekend.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was a commitment in this podcast.
I used to have a timer, but then I got all these new phones because it's been 7 years, and the timers don't.
the timer.
transfer.
Okay.
I had a little picture of a Baja truck, and then there was a countdown, and like once or twice I sent to him like, "Hey, 3 years left." Anyway, should we make the commitment now that in 5 years we will enter an official bobsled race?
Let's do it.
Well, you're in. I need to think about it because I've learned that when we commit to these things, they actually end up happening.
No, I'm in. You know me, dude.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You asked me to do
I
something.
still know the
I always say
pilots.
I'm
We
in.
can definitely coordinate that.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll just do like a smaller circuit, like North American Cup. Go up there and just hop in with a pilot. We can do it.
That would be awesome.
All right, I'm in.
Okay. Well, there's 3 of us. Do we need to find another person, or is it just 4?
Just 3. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
And then the pilot,
Let's go.
Unless you want me to drive, but you don't want me to drive.
So can the
sounds
pilot,
like I don't.
Can the pilot see down the course? Is he actually seeing
Yeah, he
the
can see
turns
one.
and stuff?
Yep.
And do they not allow them to put like communication stuff in their helmets so they can like hear each other?
No, they probably wouldn't want any distractions anyways, because a lot of it is feel. It's it's not so much like you can navigate. Like it's just more of like, hey, how does this pressure feel, and do I need to go up this high on the turn? It's we had a pilot a few years ago that was really good at it. He mastered it, but he unfortunately passed away. But
How did he pass away?
Bobsledding, broke his neck.
Wow.
Not to be disrespectful to the deceased, but
he had some overdose issues.
Oh wow. Yeah. Man.
It was tragic. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's crazy. So how did you get into bobsledding?
Yeah. that's
And
a
how
good
big
question.
of a part of your life was that? Like, I know that about you, but it was like you came up like always wanting to do it, or you fell into it?
Just fell into it kind of. Yeah. Well, how it started was, let me go back like a few years. My brother and I, we ran track at UVU. This is years ago. And during one of the 100-meter races at BYU, there was some bobsled recruiters that came out, and my brother won that race. That
So they really do recruit sprinters.
oh yeah,
Hey, that's another accurate part of Cool Runnings.
That is accurate,
Because
yeah.
he says that sprinters make the best bobsledders.
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So they recruited him. He just tried it out, went into it for a few years, and ended up making the Vancouver Olympics back in 2010. They ended up crashing during the games. They were positioned to probably get 3rd or 4th, but they ended up crashing. And so he took a year off. He was in the military as well. He took a year off, came back in, worked up to the Sochi Games in Russia, and actually got a medal. And so I was stationed with the military in Texas during that time. And I remember it was like 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm watching the final race because there's 4 heats of this race. And he comes through and they get that bronze medal, which later got upgraded because of the Russians cheating.
Upgrade.
Yeah. And I remember just in my living room in Killeen, Texas, stationed there with the Army. And my brother crossed that finish line, won by 0.03 of a second,
Wow.
got the bronze medal. And I just was doing like fist pumps in my living room.
Dude, that's your brother, man.
Yeah.
What a crazy thing.
Yeah,
So
and then
cool.
what's crazy is that like that night or I think it was 2 nights later, I like couldn't sleep. I was up all night just thinking like, man, if he could do it, like I could probably do it too.
Really?
And so I reached out to him right after the games and I was like, hey man, I want to try this. Like, I kind of hung up my sporting career and everything when I finished college, and I never thought I'd be doing competitive sports again. But I was like, I feel like if he could do it, I could probably be competitive at it as well and try it out. And so a few months later, he linked me up with the coach, and I flew up to Lake Placid and tried out. So made the team, and did it for 3 years. So it was great.
So you're able to do that while you're in the military.
Yeah.
Military gives a pass for national heroes.
Yeah. So Chris Avery, the same thing. We both made the world class athlete program. Well, not Chris, but my brother and my little brother both made it.
Oh, really?
But
so your little brother, how many brothers do you have?
I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you can do full-time military service while bobsledding. Any Olympic sport, really. Yeah, it's pretty
Chris
cool.
was in the military, right? Chris Avery.
No, he wasn't.
But
yeah.
your brother and Mikey were both military?
They're both military.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
They're both still in, too. So my brother just made...
I didn't know Mike was still in the military. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
we've been trying to recruit him.
I know.
He's listening to this. He needs to come out.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah.
So what about like bobsledding and like what it takes to like maximize that experience? What has helped you in your career? Like what do you look now as like you helped you be uniquely qualified for what you do now from that experience?
Yeah, I've actually thought a lot about that. And it was a combination between bobsledding and then the Army as well. Just like, I don't know, I just feel like I failed so many times and learned from each of those failures that helped me just be more resilient and stay neutral throughout that process to like, have a better outcome in the long term. So like, I didn't see a lot of like successful, quick results short term, but in the long term I did. And developed and grew so much during that time. And so stepping into this job, it was actually, I think I was more prepared for it because I could face the rejection on the door. I could face the failure and just pick myself up and keep moving on.
What kind of failure, like with military and bobsledding, like did you feel like, I mean, imposter syndrome is kind of a cliche word now, but like, did you feel like, what am I doing here? I don't know anything about bobsledding. Do I actually? I mean, we're talking about the Olympics. We're talking about like the USA team, right? Like, there's got to be some things there where it's like, when we were racing Baja, I kept thinking like, we had this race, like this wristband, and if we bought it, I didn't qualify. I didn't demonstrate any kind of skill. I haven't worked up through a circuit. We just bought this wristband. And there was a time when Taylor was driving the truck like through like this like registration. It's kind of like a ceremonial thing where you display your truck. And I was driving the truck and I didn't have a wristband. And they made me, I was like, no, it's Mexico. First of all, you can kind of get anything you want done in Mexico if you're convincing and whatever. And I was like, my wristband's in the truck ahead of us. And I'm clearly driving this trophy truck. I didn't steal it. And they would not, I had to climb out and there's no door. I had to like climb out and walk around and then go behind the gate. They wouldn't let me in. I went and got the wristband and I walked right through. We were handing stuff out to the crowd and everything. And we kept saying like, I can't believe this is like a score race series race. It's like a professional race. And they just let us do it. Like it took me, I actually still don't think I'm over it. Like, so you must have felt constantly like, this is like the USA team. Yeah. Like, do they not know? Like that I just like, I don't know. Is this a mistake? Brent. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like those first 2 years, the imposter syndrome was real.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was a pretty good athlete until I showed up and these guys were like, they're squatting 400 plus pounds, like putting up crazy weight and they were super fast. I always thought I was fast growing up until I went and tried out and I was like, geez, these guys are so fast.
How much could you squat like when you're in peak bobsled condition?
So when I first started, I think the max amount was like maybe 250, and then I worked up to 440.
And then how big are you? How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
And then you weigh what?
At the time I was like 230, 235.
What do you weigh now?
Of just muscle, which is
Wow,
dude, 235 of muscle is big.
You're big, dude. So what do you think? Like, you get a good look at me. What do you think I could squat? I've never checked. What do you think I could do if I'm not an idiot, but I don't work on it. So like if I got on a rack today.
Yeah. What's crazy is like sometimes it's not about the size. Like you can be really strong and be somewhat smaller too, Yeah.
Does mental resilience play into it? Cause I have that where I lack physical.
Yeah. You can build up to it.
So give me a number. How much can I squat, Brent?
You could do over 300.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me like a year or two. I can get you doing.
But then you were doing, no, I'm saying today. Give me context.
You could do like 135 or
135.
Yeah, okay. Right now.
That sounds good.
So it's like a light guy on my back. That's what I could squat.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were doing how much?
The max I did was 440.
Wow.
So
440 is a lot.
But your max
that's
is
a lot.
4 times my max.
yeah, well, I learned early on too, like I wasn't as fast as these guys. So I figured if I got really strong, then I could compensate for the lack of speed. And so
With extra like strength and push.
And then weight too, because like in a bobsled, you want to have like a certain weight, because if you're really light, you have to add weight to the sled, so you're pushing a heavier sled. So if you're heavier, you can take that weight out and push a lighter sled and hopefully get faster start times. Yeah.
This is like a max loaded weight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And every 100th of a second counts, because 100th of a second at the beginning ends up being like a 10th at the bottom.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. Like, as you were talking about the long term, which I think like that's something that's just in general in life is so lacking, is like, you know, the saying is like you overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in 10. And so a lot of times like people don't think down the road long enough. And when you're talking about like weights, increasing your squat, like in the short term, you can actually increase it kind of fast, but in the long term, like getting that extra 10 pounds or 15 pounds, like it takes so much work and effort, shaving off the additional like 100th of a second or 10th of a second in your sprinting, you know, when you were running track in college, and then when you were doing bobsled, like getting those times down by that, it's like so much work and effort that goes into that thing, right? So when because my boys right now are running track, they've just finished their sophomore year. I was telling you about it, but like dude, they work really hard. And when they PR by like a 1/10 of a second or 2/10 of a second,
that's huge.
It's big, it's major. And they literally work every single day to try to like get down those little times. And they miss state this year as sophomores run in varsity. They missed state in the 4x400, which is a mile. Like their team runs a mile. They missed it by half a second, which
let them in.
Which like
yeah, seriously.
Which sounds like, it doesn't sound like that much, but it's like half of a second, but it actually is kind of a lot in track terms, you know, like they have to do a lot of work next year to be able to like get into the place where they could still qualify, you know? So it's like all of that work, like day in and day out, that grind, which like you're saying in this job kind of prepared you, because it really does, like the day in and day out of this job and the day in day out grind, like people get burned out by that, which really just means like their inability to push through the plateaus of like frustration and those things. It's not there. Like maybe the purpose isn't big enough, or their resilience isn't enough, their inability to like cope with failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's just maintaining like the long-term perspective, because even now, after all these years being in, like I can go out a day and fail that day. I'll fail 2 or 3 days in a row, and then I win the 4th day. So it's like the long-term perspective of like the whole week or the whole month or the whole quarter is really where you need to keep your mindset, or else you'll get discouraged and you know, fail.
Yeah.
You'll opt out, you know?
Yeah. It's a strange thing too, that like when you most need the long-term perspective, you haven't developed the muscle to use it. Right. So like if you had that perspective when you were 21, or some of our like younger reps that find this job between like under 25, it's hard because like the right long-term perspective and the compounding nature of skill and earnings, like it really makes, I always tell like the young guys that come into this, like I'm 43 years old. So the money that they're earning is exponentially more than the money I'm earning, because they have an extra 20 years to compound it. Right. But you don't have that perspective until you've experienced it. And then by the time you gain it, you don't have the same time. Yeah. Life is kind of
well, it's interesting too, because thinking about, I mean, Brent and I have known each other now since we were 13 years old. So
long.
Coming up on 30 years that we've known each other. It's pretty crazy. And thinking back, like when we hang out now, it's funny because like there's still those 13-year-old versions of ourselves that are in there. You know what I mean?
So true.
And it's and we have so much fun, and it's like you realize it's like, oh, dude,
for my wife sometimes.
Dude, I have friends like that too.
For sure, but it's fun because you're like, oh yeah, like that part of me is like still that's still part of who I am. But when you think of like when you were 13, you feel like you know so much, right? You're in that adolescence, you're in the Dunning-Kruger peak of Mount Stupid, like thinking you know so much more than your parents about life, you know?
So true.
And then you look at your parents in that phase, and our parents at that time were probably in their early 40s, right? When we were there.
Yeah.
And so like about our age.
Mm-hmm.
And you looked at them as like old and they figured everything out. And reality is now you get to that place in life and you're looking back and you're like, oh dude, I still have so much to learn and so much to figure out. I'm not the expert, but I have walked that path a lot further. So having mentors earlier on when you think you know a lot, like I even think back to like when Paul and I started this business and we were 22 and we both felt like we knew so much, you know, and I remember we had partners that were in their 50s and we were like, oh, they're so old. They're, you know, and, you know, looking back now, realizing it's like having mentors that can tell you what's coming next. You think about track coaches that you've had, you know, people in the military that were your leaders, bobsledding when they're putting out the things in front of you and letting you know like what to expect and what to do. The value of that is so important.
Yeah, definitely.
It's it's a crazy thing. Like especially like I always, whenever I compare people that mentored me or parents when I was younger to like their age then, like I always think I met Todd Peterson when he was probably, I don't know, 10 years younger than I am right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, you kind of just want to get your kids together every now and then and be like, just so you guys know, I'm barely hanging on. So if I look like someone that has it together, like patience, grace, you know, we're getting there.
I always feel like as I'm getting older and the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%. So talk about when I first met you, you were still active duty in the military.
Yeah.
And you were also like learning, developing, and doing this job. And I don't know how much of this I had communicated to you, but just from being close with Taylor, he kept telling me like, dude, you got to like, I'm telling you, he's going to be great. I'm telling you, he's got it. Cause you know, you're disciplined and you've done things in life and you're committed and you're patient and all those things. And I kept remembering thinking like, hey, like we want to promote you, but you've got this military thing. And I just remember thinking like, how hard must it be to navigate both? So maybe talk about how that was and your strategy in not just navigating two things at once, but prioritizing, because you had options, like you have military career options. So maybe how you made the decision process and how you gravitated towards turning this into a successful career with other things.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I first came in, I actually saw Taylor with Adam Cox in a Facebook post. This is back when I was bobsledding full time and actually had orders to go to Fort Lewis, Washington to continue my Army career. And I remember reaching out and being like, how do you guys know each other? Because I knew Adam from Massachusetts, Taylor from Utah.
Is Fort Lewis considered a bummer? It's so rainy there.
Yeah, I know, but that's like one of like the coolest.
It's one of the coolest places.
Yeah.
I used to drive by I'm from there, so I used to drive by Fort Lewis like as often as I drive by Pendleton now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I always remember thinking like, oh, it must suck to be a soldier in the rain because it always rains there.
I did a training there and I loved it. Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, I saw him in a Facebook post and I reached out to him and I was like, hey, how do you guys know each other? And they were like, oh, we work for that time Vivint.
So you knew Adam from Mass?
Yeah.
So you just
school.
Oh,
so
crazy.
when he moved out there, they went to high school together.
Yeah.
This fabric of destiny.
I know, right?
Woven all around you.
It's so true. And I was like, how do you guys know each other? And they're like, well, we work for Vivint. And then Taylor initiated it. He was like, hey man, you should just come out here and work with us. And I was like, well, I'm in the Army. I can't just like,
you can't just be like, no, man, pack up, roll out.
I had 2 more years in my contract. And he was like, well, just come out. We'll just fly you out. You have a vacation with your family. And I was like, all right, I can do that for sure. And I flew out and, I remember driving up to the office in Palmdale with Adam Cox, and I didn't even think I realized that it was door to door because I did door to door in college, and I was like, I don't know, I just didn't connect it, and so we pulled up to the office, and I remember asking him, and I was like, hey man, is this door to door? And he's like, yeah, and I was like,
I love it. You're there.
I'm already
with
there.
Your family, with your friends, and be like, so what are we doing? What's the job?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, what's the job?
Sometimes you got to trick them into coming out. You know, hey, take a vacation to California. Sounds great.
Or it's kind of like what we just did by committing to a national bobsled race.
That's right.
Cool, I'm in. What is it, like running? You need like spikes and stuff? How does it work?
We'll get you the spikes, and
yeah,
that's all you need. But
hey, there's something to be said for people that are all in.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you all in, figure it out later, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. And at that time, I was like, well, it's just a vacation. I can't really leave the Army.
Vacation to Palmdale.
Vacation to Palmdale. And I think,
Good job, dude.
I think both of you were there at that meeting, and it was when the commission structure changed. They it tripled.
Yeah.
Like in like one day. And I remember
it looked like it tripled because really what we were doing is giving you more of it up front, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember like doing the math in my head, and I had done pest control and alarms back in college, and I promised myself I'd never knock a door ever again, by the way.
It's something that people are really good at knocking doors, have that thing where they at one point commit. I remember Jeff Gallivan would always say like, I committed to myself that after I was 37, I wouldn't knock doors. I'm like, why? Like,
yeah,
what is that? But it's a common thing. You know?
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm like naturally more introverted, and it was really uncomfortable for me to go out and sell. Like I was pretty good, but like it was really hard to kind of like show up each day. It was very like emotionally and energy taxing for me. And so I was like, oh man, this is door to door again. But I did the math in my head, and I was like, well, if I can do the same numbers I did when I did alarms and make this kind of money, this might be a good opportunity. And so I went home and talked to my wife, and I was like, maybe this is a good opportunity for us. I can see if we can get out of the military early and we can move down to California and do this full time. And everything just worked out. Over the next 3 months, I flew back and forth, sold a few accounts during that time, and then officially got the orders to get out of the military. I had 3 months while I was active duty still doing this job, which was a blessing because there was kind of like that, the bridge to connect it. So, but that's how I started. And then I jumped into it and just started. I kind of burned the ship. Like it was like, hey, I left Utah. We moved here full time. It was like I had to make this work, and I'm glad we did. We've been here for almost 7 years now.
It's crazy to think like one thing that as you were talking about you doing the math and sitting in the meeting, I think it's good for all of our leaders to know, or anybody that's in a recruiting position or wants to get better at recruiting. You sometimes think like, I remember when I was married and I had friends that were dating, like, going through their relationships, and they would say like, oh, I just can't tell like if they're into it or if they like me. But then from my position, I wasn't in it. So I could see it's just completely like clearly, I'm like, bro, she's responding to all of your texts. You've gone out 5 times. She's in. Like, don't make this harder than it needs to be. And I think sometimes we do that with recruiting where people are like, yeah, I don't know if he's in. Like, he's come out twice. He's still kind of thinking about it. I think it's really helpful because I was the same way. And I don't know how you were when you, kind of like had it dawn on you that like, oh, I could have this kind of influence and do it too. But recruiters, like if you're in there and you're talking about the opportunity and you're talking about the potential to expand, the potential to earn, the potential to like be a part of something amazing, like, people are doing the math. Like they're more sold than you think. And that's also my experience. Like I remember thinking like way back in college, okay, so you're telling me, all right, back then it was like you could make 15 grand in a summer. That's what like the pitch was. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking like, I don't know, like how much do I have now? Oh, that'd be more. And if I spread that out, oh my gosh, like you start to do the work and sell yourself. So I think that's really important to understand that, hey, when you're recruiting, trust that the person you were ineligible to do the job. And you were thinking about that, doing the math, talking to your wife, and asked the government to let you leave early, mm-hmm. and it worked. Like, that's the longest of long shots, and that happens all the time.
Yeah, when there's a will, there's a way. It's like, I wanted to do this, and so it just kind of worked out the way it did. I'm so glad it did. I remember thinking at the time, I was like, man, if I just make, twice as much as what I make in the military right now, I'll be happy. And then it ended up being 4 times as much the first year, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a life-changing opportunity for sure.
For you, at some point, you went from kind of like doing well, but not like smashing it. Mm-hmm. Something clicked for you, because most of the time when people have been doing that, because you've been here 7 years now.
Yeah.
So most of the time when you've been doing that, 3 years or whatever, performing at a certain level that's good, but also feeling like you could do more. I think it's rare to see someone do this for 3 years or so and then kind of decide to level up. And it feels like in the last 2 years, like you have like massively leveled up in kind of every aspect of the job, like not just your production, but in production, recruiting, leadership, like influence across the region, like in every way you really leveled up. What was it for you that like flipped the switch? Where'd you see that turning point?
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to kind of mindset. I think I was kind of limited myself quite a bit in the first few years, and I found that I was actually doing that my whole life. The way I was raised, I was always kind of like, I followed my brother Chris, who got an Olympic medal and broke all these records, and I was kind of in his shadow for all that time, and I got comfortable being in the shadow of somebody else for a long time. And so I found that was kind of, and no dig on, Adam and Brian, who I co-managed with, but I kind of fell in their shadow for years. And so when they ended up, leaving to start their Taros, their business, it kind of gave me an opportunity to step into the main role there, So it was kind of like this mindset shift. And then it was just like doing little tweaks to like my sales process and leadership style that really kind of projected me to the next level, I think. So having like Sterling's mentorship and then Adler as well was really kind of like where they really helped me kind of get to the next level.
And was there, because I remember the meeting, we had that market leader meeting in Laguna with all the West Coast leaders, and then Atomic did their thing after, and Sterling had that Every Leader franchise challenge, because that was Q1 of last year, right? So it was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And there was a moment in that meeting, in that room, that everyone kind of refers back to.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that from your perspective.
The F mediocre one.
yeah.
So I'm not one to really swear a whole lot. And people get fired up when I swear. So
yeah.
But we were sworn twice, and both times it went well.
Yeah. But yeah, we were just meeting about every leader franchise. It was super impactful. I could just really feel like the change finally coming. I've been like kind of like trying to change for so long. And in fact, I actually still have it, but Sterling gave us all these wallets that say Every Leader franchise on it. And I still have mine.
Let me see it.
Yeah.
So he passed those out to everybody in his leadership group. And there are 20 or so, 30 or 20 to 30 leaders in that leadership group in that region that were there.
Right.
And it was like a long table. So it was a room with a long table. Everyone's sitting around this like long conference table. Right. And so he had everything laid out. I think when you walked in, everything was laid out at the table. So when you sat down, there were hats, if I remember, like hats and a shirt, and then those wallets. Is that wallets?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I remember thinking, I don't know, I just felt like the energy that day. I was like, all right, this is the year. Like it was right at the beginning of the year. I was like, I'm going to make some serious changes this year, and really something that I'd never done is hit franchise after all these years I've been with the company. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy into this 100% and actually hit it this year. And so I remember we were doing our kind of presentation on our goals for the year. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just tired of this mediocre like person that I've become, just kind of like settling, just being, where I am, and I want to level up. So I was just like, F mediocre. And then it just resonated with the group. And that was like the next thing and
everyone's throwing each other through windows and the building's on fire.
Everyone has talked about that moment for a while since then. That became like kind of on their thread, like on the leadership thread, people would say that like throughout the year. Even when other people would level up, like people would refer back to what you had said. Cause I think it kind of brought that out of everyone that hadn't, even the ones that had hit franchise before, but hadn't done it in a while, the ones who had never done it, like it kind of pulled out of everybody. Like, yeah, you know what? Cause it wasn't like mediocre at that level is still the highest level in the industry. Like these are the best leaders and the people who have been doing it, running the biggest teams, like doing a really good job. But still feeling like there's another gear that's in there. Like I'm doing it, but I'm kind of going through the motions. Like there's more in the tank that I haven't accessed yet. And so how do I get there? And it seems like that called everybody out.
Yeah. And hitting that gear was super exciting. Like when I finally hit it, like it was the quarter before I had my best like upfront volume quarter, quarter 3 of last year. So I knew franchise was coming that quarter 4, which was the first time I hit it. But like tapping into that gear and being like, all right, I got this figured out. I know what I need to do to get to this level now. I was doing good before. And I think, the thing I was worried about was getting out of balance. It was like, family's priority. I want to make sure that's priority than work. Like my wife always says this, like you work to live, not live to work. And so it was like, all right, so that was always a priority over the years. But then I realized like, hey, sometimes you need to get a little bit out of balance temporarily to reach that new gear and to hit those levels. And that's what I had to do in quarter 3 of last year. And then I kind of carried that over until now. So
do It's weird that that's kind of what we try to articulate. That's what the street is about. Like you even said the word exciting, like hitting that new gear is exciting. And maybe it's because we're literally hours off this race, but it made me think of, there was a section that I was driving that was silt. And I've been trying to like have positive, what's the word? Visualization of the silt, because I've seen so many videos of silt and it's like, you do not want to get stuck in the silt. If you get stuck in the silt, you could be there for hours, right? It's 4 feet deep. It's gnarly. And so I remember coming through, I got stuck in the silt once. Luckily, a local rescued me. It was amazing. But then I was coming through this other section again, and it was deep silt. And our co-pilot, Taylor and my co-pilot, was saying, he's like, you're in silt. And he says, I'm going to push you to be uncomfortable here. Drive. And I was completely out of balance, and it was messy. Like we were hitting ruts, we were jumping out of things. But first and foremost, I was not spending the night in the silt, period. Like if I had to drive through the mountain off course, that's what we were doing. And so, but that's when I think back on the race, that's when I felt the most electric. It's when I felt the most alive. And so sometimes, like, to do extraordinary things, you have to sacrifice balance and line choice and stuff like that. And so I think the first thing is that feeling, that excitement of doing the most exciting thing I've ever done. I felt it when you were talking about like, so I'm going to be out of balance. So I'm going to blast through the fence. So I'm going to hit the rut. So I'm going to mow it down. I'm just going to go, right? Like if you can be in that pocket, you live a different life than other people. But the other thing that you do is it's kind of like, as a leader, it's your responsibility to live that kind of life, because it's really exciting. Like for part of that race, my friends were in a helicopter watching, and they're like, we were so inspired by it. And we had cameras in the trucks. And as all of us were watching, we were like, he's going, like seeing, like, it's the reason that you like to watch sports. It's the reason that you like to watch inspirational movies. Like whenever you see it, you also feel a little bit of it. And so this franchise thing that you're talking about, like, I wasn't at that meeting. I was outside recruiting a guy that we didn't end up getting, but I heard about it for a long time. And when you started talking about it, I remember, and I think about all the other people that watched you go and watched you hit franchise, and then the people around. Like, dude, that's why we lead from the front, is because it literally like ignites that spark in other people. And then they look and they're like, look at Brett go. Like, I'm excited watching you go. You know what I mean? Like, it really does collectively lift the group. That's why leaders have to lead from the front, you know?
That's really good that you said that too, because that was a big inspiration for me, was like, if I could level up and prove to these guys that I can do it, then hopefully it will level up other people around me. And so I'm thinking of specifically one rep that had been with us for years too. And he leveled up that same quarter that I did.
What's his name?
Nick Himes.
Yeah.
He's been with us for years.
Yeah,
you know?
That's great.
And so, so he leveled up at the same time, and I'm like, man, like that provided more fulfillment than like me hitting franchise. Cause when I finally hit franchise, I was telling Kayvon and Soraya that like, it was kind of like, oh, now I'm franchise. It's like, cool. You know, but then to see like
feel different. Yeah. Aren't I supposed to be happy now?
Yeah. No, it was really cool. But then like seeing other people level up in our office as well as we did that quarter, I was like, man, this is amazing. This is what it's all about, you know, helping other people get to that next level. That's like a huge thing for me right now. So I think you coined it where you said, you know, we sell for income as a rep, but as a leader, you sell for influence. And that's always stuck with me like throughout these years. So.
Yeah, influence it, but it also like I'm really interested in what you said about how you had felt, you know, in your brother's shadow. The way you worded it was better, but you had talked about like
getting comfortable in someone else's shadow.
Yeah, like we do that. We put these mental limits on us where we're like, oh, like that's for the pros, or that's for I probably couldn't get a medal, but. Maybe, but these self-limiting beliefs that they don't exist. They're not true. You can join a bobsled team. You can do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of reminded me of that quote. Have you guys heard that Steve Jobs quote where he said that like, it's something to the effect of like, your life changes when you realize that everything around you that we call life was created by people that are no smarter than you, and you can make your own things and you can do that. We often think we're like, oh, well, yeah, that guy's a business owner, so that's why he did it, but when you realize this thing was made by someone that's no smarter than me, or this level was hit by someone that's not more capable than me. They just think differently. Maybe talk about that, because I know what that feels like. Like, I know what it feels like to be like, oh, okay, I probably couldn't be number 1, but top 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like the liberating feeling of breaking out of that. I think everybody has covered the e-brake on themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And then when they see someone break through it, it really shakes you awake. You know what I mean? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And that's like something I think, like the 2 most influential books I've read since working here is Extreme Ownership, but Atomic Habits has been a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I might not be able to do like a 100% jump today, but I could do a 1% for the next few days and probably get to 100% eventually. And so it was like, if I just did like a little bit different things, like as time goes on, then I could kind of break away from that e-brake that I kind of put on myself, the self-limiting thing. So it was like, if I just keep making like these small little changes, I can overcome this like mental limitation that I put on myself. And so I kind of started putting that into place like months leading up to, last year when I finally hit franchise.
What were some of the adjustments that you made that you can remember, like the small kind of tweaks that you made?
Like the morning routine was a big thing. So like waking up, working out, meditating, visualizing was a huge thing. Because, and then also I take a step back, like identifying that there was like a little bit of like a limitation there as well. I think when I took a personality test and I saw what Enneagram I was.
What are you?
I'm a 9.
What is define a 9? I don't think
peacemaker, not confrontational.
Yeah, 9. Yeah, 9. You would think like
I was going to say we don't meet many 9s.
Don't bring 9s. Don't bring 9s into a door-to-door job. Is
exactly.
What you think, right?
Yeah. In fact,
balance, peace.
Yeah, balance, peace, non-confrontational, which is like not really good on the doors, but naturally that's how I am. So once I learned that about myself, I was like, okay, well, this personality type has some strengths too. So I'm going to harness on those and try to like develop, what I need to get to the next level here. But it's funny. Like I had a coworker that would not hire 9s because we would make people take the personality test and be like, I'm not hiring any 9s.
Dude, can we digress for a second? Because I actually, a lot of like people that make it to that seat right there, it's electric people that stand out. Right. And so, I found what they do is they find a way to play to their strengths. And so even the self-limiting belief of whoever wouldn't hire the 9s, you don't have to say their name, but I look at that and I'm like, okay, what uniquely qualifies you as a 9 to do this job? And think about, I was talking to the Houston team this morning, and one of the things that I was going to talk to them about was reassurance and the power of reassurance in a sales process. Just think about it. Like you're taking people down a path that they have not been down before. And most people present that they're not interested or I make my own decisions, but really they're scared. That's why they're not going down that path. They're uncertain or they're scared. And so if you think about like what a peacemaker and like a balance creator can do for somebody that like, and you're like, most like men wouldn't tell you, hey, Brent, I just want you to know that I'm scared of the next. They're not just not going to say that. And so for someone like you, that's like disciplined and fit and determined to come in and know how to ease tension and move people through and make them feel comfortable, that is a superpower. Yeah. You just have to think about it right.
You have to think about it right. And so like identifying that as my personality type and being like, okay, that's actually a strength. I'm non-confrontational, which means that I'm a good mediator and I can diffuse situations really easy.
Perfect.
And so I was like, I'm going to use that to my strength. So when I go on the doors and I'm talking to people that are kind of confrontational, I would just, a win for me was just defusing the situation and making a friend. Like that was like huge for me. And then oftentimes when you make a friend, their walls come down, and then that's how I did the sales process. And so it was really connecting with people, being a peacemaker, helping them feel at peace. And that's like my strength when I go and sell somebody. I'm not like the Enneagram 8 or the 3 that goes in and just is like super assertive and aggressive and like, hey, you're doing this, and like bulldoze them down. That's not me at all. Like I'm usually like, hey, I'm your friend. This is a good idea. And you're going to be at peace making this decision kind of thing.
What was your awesome visualization process like? Like how did that take me through that? Did you spend a lot of time in that, or like, and was it consistent?
Yeah. So, Kayvon actually helped me a lot with this because he's really into Joe Dispenza and visualizing. Yeah. So yeah, but I started
to help you find your energy realm.
He did. Yeah, for sure.
I want him to help me find mine.
Yeah. He's good at it. He just went on a whole retreat for a week.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, so I just started visualizing like how conversations were going to go and closing the deal and getting them installed. It was just like, that visualization each day kind of helped me go out and anticipate that happening. And then as you visualize it, stuff just starts happening because, I mean, that's just like the law of attraction or whatever it is, you know? So, but I never really put it into place until I was taught it. And then once I did, I saw the results. And it was really cool.
I'm glad you asked that question. I was thinking of, there's this YouTube clip I saw the other day about, the Blue Angels. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
You saw that clip?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes,
awesome?
the ones where they're sitting there and they're like, they're leaning and then they're like saying things they're talking about. So they're all sitting in a room and they're calling out their formations. And then did you see the one that shows the video too of when they act? Okay. So they have a side by side where it shows the actual clip of what they're visualizing. And it shows, I don't know, these cameras that they have on these jets are crazy because these things are flying so fast. And their wings are like almost touching. Mm-hmm. And so it goes through their visualization of the moments, and then it shows actually when they're doing it overlaid with the visualization. And it's incredible because they're all sitting in this room with their eyes closed, and someone will call out the move, and you can see all of them. Like they're like moving their heads. They're like with their hands, kind of what they'd be doing, and then you can see it in the planes, like when they or in the jets when they do it.
I watched this video too.
You saw it too?
We all saw the same video. Yeah,
wow.
Same one.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
they were like literally like eyes closed, like shift.
Yeah,
all this stuff. Yeah.
Yes,
it was so.
Should have done that for the Baja. I may not have rolled that truck if we would have done that.
Honestly, you think about it like, so I remember one of the quotes in that video, which is something that we know that says, you know, your brain has a really hard time distinguishing reality from visualization, right? And so if these people that operate these, like, you know, multi-million, tens of millions of dollars of planes that fly with that level of precision. And the other thing I thought was interesting is they were in their flight suits. So they could have been in their sweats and their, you know, whatever, but they're in flight suits. I noticed all their hair's cut, like they're in formation, they're sitting up, they're listening to the instructor that's going to be calling them out, and they're just going through it.
Yeah.
And I'm also glad that you said that you visualized how the conversations would go. Mm-hmm. Dude, I wish that there was some way to track the impact that had on your performance, because it's not written how it's going to go. And so if you can visualize it, you're exponentially, your brain can't really tell. They're like, oh, okay, I guess that's how it's going to go. And so then all of a sudden you perform a million micro steps to see to it that it happens that way.
And there would be conversations like that. Like I would end the day and recap. Like I think back oftentimes after I sell in a day, and I was thinking back on these conversations, and it would be like, man, that went like perfect, like exactly as I visualized it. Yeah.
And how do most reps, like you work with a lot of reps now, in anticipation of a meeting, what thoughts pervade their brains? Generally,
yeah,
they're usually like, oh, dude, I hope the husband like is cool, or I hope that they don't shut me down, or I hope that they like it. It's all these like fear-based thoughts. And so what happens?
Well,
generally,
in the most part, they're winging it. So I think you said this, and I've like parroted this a lot, which I think happens. But like, I think one time in a training you said this, but it's like, you know, if you know that you're going to get 7 objections, like 7 possible objections on the door, you know what they're going to be. So if you go out, you know, that day to sell, or any aspect of your life, right? This is just sales specific, but like if you go out that day and you don't even practice what the things are that you will say, you're significantly less prepared for that interaction when you have all of the tools and resources to show up fully prepared for that interaction. So it's like, if you think of any like UFC fighter, for example, who preps for a fight and they do their fight camp, they have a person set aside that is just like the person that has a really similar style to the person they're going to fight, that they train with every day, so that they have the feeling of that other fighter constantly there. They have a nutritionist. They have like so many different, they have a camp full of like coaches and people who are there to prepare their bodies and their minds and everything for that. And just imagine, and that's why, like, when you see a UFC fight, it's very rare that one fighter just dominates the other fighter. Now, like, all the fighters are so high level because they've gotten so dialed in. Mm-hmm. Imagine just showing up, like, not doing a camp. And sometimes that does happen. Like, a fighter gets injured, and so they bring someone else in who's a really good fighter but didn't have a camp to prepare. And they usually, it's a pretty lopsided fight because they just didn't have the time to go through that same preparation. I think a lot of times, like our people don't give themselves the benefit, even if they're really talented and they've accomplished a lot, they kind of rely on what they've had, you know, or whatever. Or even like I was talking to Grant Shaw yesterday, and he said one of his reps called him and said, "Hey, can you just walk me through like your referral process?" And he said, "Well, have you watched the training on Flow University on my referral process?" And the rep was like, "No, I haven't gotten on there. Like, could you just walk me through it?" And he's like, "No, dude, like, you need to go and take advantage of the tools and resources. And once you've done all of those things and put in the work, then obviously I'm going to show up to help you with that next part, you know?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same example that we give. Is it's like, you know, the talent gets you to the octagon in that scenario.
Yeah.
But like, you know, once you get in there, the world is going to watch you fist fight in your underwear. So like, that event is going to happen. It's going to happen. If you want to influence it at all, there are things that you can do, or you could just deal with whatever comes up and hope it goes well. Like that thought is so unfathomable because you've been in those arenas, you've seen those fights, and it's like, it's what they do for a living. He's a pro. Like, but then you take it to our guys and it's like, hey, your income opportunity is actually greater. No one's going to punch you today, but you do have a meeting today, or you are going to be in the neighborhood today, and you have a choice. Like, you can influence it. You can train, you can visualize, you can prepare. And if you do, it will go better. Or you could just get punched in the face in front of everybody, like, and react in the moment. And it's like, it's actually like more than shocking. I just want to like shake people and be like, man, you don't have to get told no as often as you get told no. Like, you don't have to like feel anxiety and nervousness all the time. There'll always be some level of that, because like you say, people can make choices and do whatever they want. But if you can get to the point where it's like, I visualize this going well, I would even like, you know, when I would get stuck in a rut, I would always try to like make a friend, get a conversation going. Mm-hmm. But then I would visualize like me in the next house, and then I would just try. And it's like, it takes no time. Yeah. And if it works 1 in 10 times, you do that over that long-term time. I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know what I mean?
Well, and think about everything you've done. So running track, obviously we played football together in high school, running track, being on the bobsled team. How much preparation went into because you ran the 100 and 200, right? So how long were you running on a track in competition?
I mean, not very long.
10 to 20 seconds, right?
Yeah, 10 seconds for the 100, 20, seconds for the 200.
And how much, every time you ran in competition, how much prep time did you run and lift and...
Yeah, it was hours.
And for bobsledding too, like how long is a bobsled run?
It's like less than a minute.
And how much time goes into prepping for that? Hours.
I mean, we're talking two-a-day workouts during the summer, sprint and lifting every single day. You're talking about hours, days that you prep for that 60-second race. It's crazy.
And how much time would you say, ratio-wise, our reps are spending prepping for getting out to do the actual like part of the job, like that,
right?
The important part. Like, how much time do you think they're prepping for that comparatively?
Yeah, not very much. And we always, like, we talk to our guys about, this is not a job where you can just roll out of bed and just show up. You have to be sharp. And so there's a lot of prep work that goes into it. And that was a lot of my journey in hitting franchise was spending the time in the morning, the hours in the morning prepping for that afternoon knocking session and just kind of like, sharpening the axe. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, like, if you give me a few hours to chop this tree down, I'm going to spend a majority of it sharpening the axe.
Yes.
And that's what goes into it. Like, we only see, oftentimes with production, we only see like the tip of the iceberg, but there's so much underneath that and prep work before you go out to make yourself more efficient on the doors.
Yeah.
Well, especially now, like, it's cool, like anything that you're trying to learn, but the wealth of knowledge and resources that are available to you. Like, I think of when I started doing this 20 years ago, we had this DVD and, yeah. And like, I remember it being a DVD that was like new. Like, I couldn't make a DVD, but you would put it in and there was,
what'd you put it into?
a DVD player.
I'm surprised it wasn't a cassette.
I saw, this is funny. So when my wife and I were dating, we'd go snowboarding and we'd always like watch a movie at my apartment. And the TV was from Eric Mealy. He had won it as a summer incentive. So it was like, yeah. And I saw a picture of it the other day because I remember like watching a TV and having it be a decent size. Yeah. It's a tube. It's like a Panasonic tube TV with a VCR in the bottom. And it was on the other side of the, I don't know how we saw the screen. It's smaller than that computer screen across the
way over there.
And it was way over there. But there was this DVD and it had, Courtney Jones was on the DVD. Lane Thompson was on the DVD. Bo Gardner was on the DVD. And I had a paper manual and I had that DVD. And we'd put in the DVD and we'd just watch these people sell. And then I'd practice with my roommate, Austin Baird, who was our legal counsel for a while, who was a nighttime nudist, I also learned. Oh. So, yeah, it was a weird summer. Fun. So the...
Wait, Austin's the one that started running the Century.
Yeah, he runs like...
Ultramarathons.
Yeah.
Remember that one time we finished a meeting late in TO that one night? He's like, all right, I'm going to go run 40 miles. I was like, dude, it's 10 p.m.
Yeah. We were going to like Woodfire Grill or something. So anyway, but I remember like having those resources and just, I can remember Courtney Jones was wearing like this faded blue Navy, like Lake Powell visor. Like I just remember everything about that video. I remember Lane Thompson's like reactions to customers, like the mock customers things.
Shout out Lane Thompson, man. I haven't
heard that
name for a while. What a beast.
So, that was what we had, right? And you figure it out and learn it. But then now it's like, man, you've got access to sales content on your phone through podcasts, through streaming books, through YouTube, whatever. You've got books that are available at the drop of the hat that you can listen to. You have an entire industry of people that will give you advice, right? And then you also have these tools. You have tools like Taros. You have tools like, people that use SalesRabbit and all of these things. You have analytic tools. You have meditation tools. You have diet things that you can track and sleep track. Like you could be a freaking machine.
Yeah.
I look at like, we know Ronnie Lott from doing like promotional things, and like they say he's like the best running back ever, and he's a gritty guy and cut his finger off, and back when men were men. Yeah. And so you look at him and you look at his opportunity, and then you look at like what that position could be now, and what we've like genetically mutated those humans to be, and the access to facilities and and all of like science and all these things. Well, yeah, they should be exponentially better. That's the environment that reps have now.
Yeah,
they should be these just enhanced beasts.
True.
Because you have so much access to things and so
resources.
But I think the income in a lot of ways has softened people because the dollars you can make on a deal are bigger, and so people will go out and maybe try to get a few pitches in, maybe work like 2 hours in a day, maybe 3 if they're pushing. And I would say like this isn't obviously what the best people do. This is what like a majority of people who are producing really low, and it just makes the job so much harder. It's like when you're racing in the Baja and you get into the whoop section, like these big whoops that you're racing, if you go over those things slow, you feel every single point of impact, and the bumps are way bigger. Like they just feel bigger. If you take the right speed into those, you flow over those things. Like you still feel them, but you're not experiencing the ups and downs of every one of those things. Like you're catching the tops and you're flowing right through. And so I think a lot of times like reps feel, they call it the solar coaster because they're feeling the top and the bottom of every one of those whoops versus like flowing through, and this deal falls off and this one falls off, and it's not that big of a deal because you're flowing. You know what I mean? Like you're putting in consistent throttle to like get you through those. And I think a lot of our people don't do that.
Yeah, it's like the mediocre mindset. It's just like, yeah, there is like some comfort there. You almost need to be like uncomfortable, to like succeed at this, and you have to keep putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to be very successful and productive at this, in my opinion. It's like, yeah, if you just coast along, you're just mediocre, and yeah, I mean, you might be able to pay the bills, but you're not going to that next level.
Yeah, it's not exciting.
Yeah. And for you going from the mediocre to like where you're at now, what's the difference, the delta you feel as far as like fulfillment in the job and just in life in general? Like how's that different?
Well, it like carries over to like the family. It carries over to personal life, just relationships and all that as well. It's a life-changing experience for sure.
I had this visual once that I think really applies to what you're just saying of like, I noticed this, I experienced a mental shift in my career at one point, too. And it was less about like, oh, I'm going to perform now at a higher level, but it was more like, I knew the like content that, hey, what you think about matters and it impacts everything. But like, there was a time where I like knocked that into practice just a little bit better. And the visual that I got was the way that you are, the way that you live. It's like the fuel that you're ingesting in your mind, there's exhaust that comes off that, right? And so when you think a certain way and behave a certain way and talk a certain way and live a certain way, the visual was, okay, that's like, it's an actual like film on the outside of your body. And when I go home tonight, I'm going to trudge it into my house. And when I hug my children, it's going to get on them. And when I hug my wife, you're going to step away. And it's like if you hug somebody at the end of like a race or a concert and you're sweaty or whatever, like and energy is like that. I fully believe that. And so, I love what you said, how it like spills over, because when I had like tried to make a conscious effort to be like, no, I'm going to think differently. I'm going to choose positivity and proactivity. I actually had conversations with my wife where she's like, you just seem so much better. And I'm like, well, what she was really saying is I feel better around you because you're not getting, instead of getting like black dust on me, you got like, uplifting white clouds around you or whatever. So I don't know how, but you've been around people that just are like, dude, I can't today with this person. Like they're going to get their crap all over me, And then some people you see them and you're like, come towards me, like come be by me and like lift me up.
It's the vibration, just a higher energy vibration for sure.
Yeah. And humans operate better at a certain like speed or vibration. And so I think that that's what's like so inspiring about the path and trajectory that you're on right now. Because it's like, I looked at my schedule today. I looked at my schedule yesterday and I'm like, I got like it's a Monday and I got a lot of stuff going on and I have these reviews and like these things. I looked at my schedule today. I'm like, dude, I'm doing a podcast with Brent Taylor. This is going to be freaking, this is
for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome, but it is your responsibility to be that kind of person and the best thing to do is you can sort of be careful with the way I say this, but you can sort of be selfish. Pursue things that are exciting to you. Pursue things that are good. Perform well in those things. And that's what you do to lift other people. You can't like talk inspiration into somebody if you're not that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes back to I work to live, right? It's like I do this job to be able to enjoy the time with my family. And when I step away from it, it's like I'm like fully present with them because everything, like when you do high volume, income's coming in, you're not having to like stress about the bumps, I guess you could say, as you were describing it. But it's like when I'm with them, I can be fully present and like, just enjoy that time with them. And then that also recharges your battery. Cause like a big thing I'm learning right now is like energy management, because as my like personality type, confrontation can really drain my energy, and like actually being on the doors drains my energy. So I need like time and I need to find ways to, recharge the batteries, I guess you could call it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like time with family, it's being outdoors in nature, it's doing a hobby, and I'm able to do those things when work's going really well as well. So it's kind of like a balance between the two, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What are you, as you look forward now, what are you most excited about? Like, we're 40 now, like we turn the corner on this.
We're easily 40.
On this
You're not
thing.
Quite 40.
Not quite.
By the time this comes out,
time
this comes out, you may very well be
40. Yeah. And so as you think through like, the next 5 to 10 years, like what are you most excited about?
Yeah. I mean, I just love, like I said earlier, the more you start learning about things, the more you realize you don't know. And I'm just excited about like just learning and growing and like, I don't know, just getting better, because there's still like, it's funny that the things I focus on a lot in this job are the things I'm not doing and not good at yet. And so I'm like eagerly just ready to like learn more and become a better person and just trust the process of just doing that 1% better each day. And then it compounds over time. And I want to be eventually like you guys, I guess. I don't know.
Better.
Yeah, I feel, yeah.
Yeah, better than that too. Cause I think, you bring such a different, like you and I, like we've been best friends for, like I said, the majority of our lives, by the vast majority. So we've seen each other go through like a lot of different things in life but we've always brought different things to our friend group and situations that we've been in, and we're differently gifted. But I think like that's such a cool part of, you know, when Adler reached out to me, I don't know, last quarter sometime or the quarter before, I can't remember, and was just praising you and like so excited to work with you.
Yeah, I like working with him just as much.
Yeah, it's cool to see like that your influence like really grow and like you like really spread your wings in the job. And so, you know, you'll show up in a way that Ty and I aren't able to show up because of like who you are. And I think that's something I've been trying to like get out to our group, is to say like everyone here comes into the world with different talents and abilities, truly. And sometimes we try to emulate other people too much, where it's like, hey, you actually have a difference. Like Ty and I look up to Ty so much. Ty and I have different skill sets. Like we have different talents and abilities, and like the purpose of your life is to figure out those things, how you're gifted and what those talents and gifts are, and then to live out those talents and gifts in the service and love of other people.
Yeah.
And as you do that, like that's how you find like true fulfillment in life, is by living that way. And I'm excited like watching you in your career to like, because I feel like you've come to those things and you've learned those things, and now it's time to like live those things out in the service and love of like the people that you have a stewardship over.
Well, that's interesting. You talked about that, because that was something I struggled with when I was like reflecting on my identity and my personality type. And I really spent years and years and years trying to be like other people, like saying the right things, doing the right things like they would to be successful. And it kind of like got me through certain phases of my life. But I really hit this moment, and actually Sterling helped me a lot with this, and just kind of like be like identifying like who I am and what my strengths are and my weaknesses, and really capitalizing on those strengths. And I don't know, it just really helped me out, you know, in this next chapter in my life. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most, is like stepping into like the next phase of life, these 40s that we're going into, with this just new identity. Like it's just, I'm just confident in who I am now, and I never was up until about a year or two ago.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really apparent that you've done that work. Like even hearing you talk, like most people probably haven't like really like, okay, let me take this tool and see what it says about my personality, and let me think about it. You only get that. I remember right when we merged with Sunrun, we did a podcast with Lynn Jurich, and I really didn't know her. And I remember coming out of that, and everyone's like, how was Lynn? 'Cause she was like our new boss, you know? And I remember the first thing I said was, she's done work. Like you can just tell she has done that work that you've talked about. Like she knew who she was, she knew who she wasn't. She was a female in you know, the energy sector that was running a big business. And you have to know who you are, or else someone will tell you kind of who you are. And I just remember thinking that, but it's really rare. You don't meet very many people that are like, no, I've reflected a lot on it, and I came to this conclusion over time and questioning. And, you know, now I know what works for me. But you present yourself now, because I've known you through those like military to rep to leader to good leader, but probably had more in the tank. Like, and you present yourself now with more confidence and more levity. Like you are more confident, but you're also more, it's kind of how like, you know how like Keanu presents himself, like there's not a person in the world that doesn't like Keanu Reeves, you know?
Yeah, I know, he's awesome.
Cause he's 100. Yeah. Like he's
authentic,
he's authentically awesome. He's objectively awesome, but he's kind of like, he knows who he is, and he lives that way, and he's true to what he is versus what people want him to be. And everyone looks to him like, yeah, be like Keanu, you know?
Yeah. He's like one of the best to his fans, I think.
Right?
Yeah. He's just like great. You know, most people are jerks, but you know.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I think people don't know about Brent too, is his like silly side, like how fun he is. Like Brent and I had so much fun, because like when you have like someone that you feel fully like comfortable with, you can be like your authentic self. And so you have a version of yourself that you kind of like can present to the world. And then the version of yourself that like comes out when you feel comfortable around the people that you're with, you know?
It's true, yeah.
And so people, I think sometimes are like, oh, Brent's like, yeah, he's pretty serious. And what it's
yeah.
Yeah,
it's like
dude.
the military.
Yeah. Brent's not Brent's not that serious. Like he's pretty like silly and fun. And so I can see that side of like of you coming out too in the job now that you like feel more comfortable in yourself.
If you you like what you hear and are interested in joining the team, DM us on Instagram at RunXStreet.
What are you waiting for? Shoot us a DM and let's get going.